My parents handed my sister $4 million and labeled me a failure. Dad's attorney just phoned mine. Can you even imagine being told you're their biggest disappointment? Not by a stranger, but by your own mother, right before she forces you to sign away everything you've ever known? That happened to me. They erased me that day, my entire family. But what none of them knew, not my mother, not my father, not my perfect sister, was that 3 years later, a single phone call between two lawyers would absolutely shatter their world. 025. Start a story. Let me take you back. 3 years ago, I was Thea Anders, just a 29-year-old woman, or so I thought. That afternoon, I walked out of my parents' house with nothing. No money. No family. No safety net. My sister, Victoria, she took it all. The $4 million estate, the beach house, the investment accounts. My own father? He didn't even look at me when I left. He just stood there. The phone call came on a Wednesday night. I was cross-legged on the floor of my tiny studio apartment in New Haven. Fabric samples everywhere, blueprints for a client's living room spread out. My first real solo project, an $800 gig. I was so proud. Then, my mother's name flashed on the screen. Family meeting this Sunday. Don't be late. No explanation. No warmth. Just a command. I almost didn't go. Something in her voice felt off. Sharper. Rehearsed. But it was family, right? And despite everything, I still showed up when they called. That's always been my problem. 1:30. The meeting, Sunday morning, I drove 3 hours from New Haven to Fairfield County. The March rain had been relentless for days, the wipers beating a rhythm I couldn't shake. When I turned onto Ridgewood Lane, their house rose out of the gray, stone facade, black shutters. The kind of home built to intimidate. I grew up there, but it never felt like mine. Inside, 12 people were already seated around the dining room table. Grandmother Rosemary, Uncle Robert, Aunt Janet, 3 cousins. Everyone dressed like it was a funeral. At the head of the table sat Mr. Whitfield, my parents' silver-haired estate attorney, a thick leather folder open in front of him. My father, Richard, stood behind his chair, arms crossed. He didn't greet me. My mother, Patricia, just gestured to the empty seat at the far end. The only one left. And there, at my father's right hand, sat Victoria, my older sister. Pressed blazer. Pearl earrings. She didn't look at me either, but her posture screamed it. She knew what was coming. On the table in front of my empty chair, I saw it. A single document. My name printed at the top. Before I could read more, my father cleared his throat. Sit down, Thea. This won't take long. I sat. The chair was cold. He didn't waste time. He nodded to Mr. Whitfield, who began reading in that flat, legal tone that strips all emotion. The estate, all of it, is being transferred to Victoria and Anders. The house. The beach cottage. The investment accounts. The trust fund. $4 million. Every penny. Every wall. Every memory that was supposed to be ours. Victoria's name on every line. Mine on none. I looked at my father. And me. He didn't answer. Just adjusted his cufflink, staring at a point just past my shoulder. My mother filled the silence. She'd been waiting. You were always our biggest disappointment. She said it like she was reading a grocery list. Calm. Final. We're not going to pretend anymore. The room was still. Grandmother Rosemary looked at her hands. Uncle Robert shifted. Aunt Janet studied the table. My cousins avoided my eyes, like I'd already stopped existing. Victoria sat perfectly still. She didn't speak, but I caught it. The smallest tug at the corner of her mouth. Not quite a smile. Close enough. Mr. Whitfield cleared his throat, sliding a document closer. A relinquishment of inheritance rights. Pre-drafted. Tabs marked where to sign. We'll need your signature to finalize. I looked at the pen. I looked at my mother. Her chin was lifted, daring me. I picked up the pen. My hand was steady. That surprised even me. I heard you, Mom. I signed. I stood before the ink was dry. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said, wait. Nobody said, are you okay? The room exhaled. Not with relief, but with the collective understanding that the uncomfortable part was over for them. I walked through the hallway. My footsteps echoed. To my left, the gallery wall. 3 framed photographs. Victoria's law school graduation. Her accepting the Dean's Award. Her in Rome with Mom and Dad. Silver frames, perfectly spaced. No photographs of me. I opened the front door. The rain hadn't stopped. My phone buzzed before I reached my car. A text from Victoria. No hard feelings, right? It's just business. I stared at it for 10 seconds. Then I deleted it. 4:40, the aftermath. The drive back to New Haven took 3 hours. I made it 20 minutes before I pulled over. On the shoulder of I-95. Turned off the engine. Just sat there. Cars blurred past. The rain hammered the roof. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat with it. The weight of being subtracted from your own family, like a line item on a spreadsheet. 40 minutes. Then I started the car again. When I got home, my apartment was exactly as I left it. Fabric samples on the floor. The client's floor plan pinned to the wall. A bowl of cereal on the counter from breakfast. I checked my bank account. $3,200. No family. No connections. No one coming to help. That night, I sat on the kitchen floor and made a list. Not of what I lost, of what I still had. It was a short list, but it was mine. Then the cancellation started. The first client. Hi, Thea. We've decided to go in a different direction. Best of luck. No explanation. I sent a polite reply. Moved on. These things happen. The second cancellation came 4 days later. This one stung more. A full kitchen renovation. 3 weeks of planning. Measurements already taken. The homeowner called instead of emailing. We heard you're going through some personal issues, she said, so carefully. We just think it's better to work with someone more stable right now. I asked who told her that. She hesitated. I'd rather not say. A cold knot formed in my stomach. 2 cancellations in 1 week. Both using language that sounded coached. Both pulling away for reasons that had nothing to do with my work. I took smaller jobs. A living room refresh for a rental unit. $800. A color consultation. $200. I ate cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. Not because I was romanticizing the struggle. Because cereal was $3.49 a box. Rock bottom isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's splitting a box of pasta into 3 meals and calling it budgeting. In week 3, I tried the only family lifeline I had left. Uncle Robert, my father's younger brother. He'd always been gentler. He once told me my eye for color reminded him of grandmother Rosemary. Thea, I love you, he said on the phone. But don't pull me into the middle of this. He hung up. I understood. There was no middle. There was the Anders family. And there was me. 2 separate countries now. 7:10. The truth unfolds. That evening, an email arrived from an address I didn't recognize. Someone requesting a design consultation for a penthouse in Hartford. Budget. Significant. I almost deleted it. It felt too good to be real. I didn't. The truth found me in a coffee shop on Chapel Street. A Saturday morning, about 6 weeks after that terrible meeting. I was reviewing sketches for a bathroom remodel, the only project I had left, when a woman approached my table. Claire Dutton, a former client. I'd redesigned her home office the previous fall. Thea, I thought that was you. She sat down without asking. Her face was strange. Half guilt. Half curiosity. I have to ask you something. Are you still doing design work? Of course. Why? She stirred her coffee slowly. Because your sister told me you weren't. The words landed like a physical blow. Victoria called you? Not directly. She mentioned it at a dinner party. Said you'd stepped back from the business. That you were going through a rough time. Claire paused, looking at me, deciding how much to share. She also said you were let go from the family for reasons she couldn't get into. She made it sound serious, Thea. Like it was legal. A couple of people at that dinner were in real estate. Word travels. I set down my pencil. My hands were shaking. Not from sadness this time. From something harder. Did she say what the reasons were?
No.
That's what made it worse. She left it open. People filled in the blanks. I understood now. The cancellations. The sudden distance. Victoria hadn't just taken my inheritance. She was salting the earth behind me. Quietly. Socially. With plausible deniability. No fingerprints. Just whispers at dinner parties. I wanted to call her. I wanted to scream. Instead, I thanked Claire. I finished my coffee. And I made a decision right there, sitting in that booth with my $6.50 latte and my ruined client list. I wouldn't confront Victoria. I wouldn't beg my parents. I would rebuild somewhere she couldn't reach me. 9:30, breaking the silence, building a wall. 3 months after the meeting, I broke my own rule. I called my mother. Not to beg.
Not to cry.
I needed one answer. She picked up on the third ring.
Thea.
Not a question. Not a greeting. Just an acknowledgement that I still existed. Did you plan it, Mom? Silence. The meeting. The 12 people. Mr. Whitfield. All of it. Was it planned? We did what was best for the family. For the family or for Victoria? Victoria never gave us a reason to worry. I never gave you one either. Longer silence this time. I heard her breathing. I heard the kitchen faucet dripping, the one Dad had been meaning to fix for 7 years. Strange, the details you remember when your mother is deciding whether to be honest with you. Thea, her voice softened, but it was the softness of someone explaining something to a child. If you'd listened to us from the beginning, gone to law school, or at least gotten a real job, none of this would have happened. You chose this. There it was. The core of it. In Patricia Anders' world, obedience equaled love. I disobeyed.
So I didn't qualify.
This is the last time I call this number. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic, Mom. I'm being clear. I hung up, and I kept my word. No calls. No texts. No emails. Not that month. Not the month after. The silence between us became a wall. And every day I didn't reach for the phone, it grew another inch higher. I wasn't angry anymore. That's the part no one tells you about cutting ties. Eventually, the rage runs out. And what's left is just quiet. A terrible, steady quiet that sounds a lot like freedom. 11:30, Victoria's narrative. 4 months in, Victoria sent the first email. Subject line. Thinking of you. The body was long, carefully written, dripping with concern. I want you to know I had no part in their decision. Mom and Dad acted on their own. I tried to talk them out of it, but you know how Dad is. I hope you're doing okay. I worry about you. I read it twice. Not because it was convincing, it wasn't. Every sentence was constructed like a legal defense. No admissions. No specifics. No accountability. This email wasn't for me. It was insurance. If things ever blew up, Victoria could point to it and say, "See? I reached out. I was the caring sister." I didn't respond. 2 weeks later, a second email.
Shorter.
More direct. I heard you're struggling financially. If you need help, I'm here. You don't have to do this alone. Just ask. Just ask. The two most loaded words in the English language when they come from someone who's standing on your neck. I read this one once. Then I closed the laptop. But something made me stop. A small instinct. The kind that lives in the back of your brain where survival decisions are made. I opened the laptop again. I created a new folder in my inbox. Labeled it simply, V. I dragged both emails into it. I didn't know what I'd do with them. I didn't even know if they mattered. But my gut told me to keep a record. Victoria was meticulous. She planned 3 moves ahead. If she was sending emails this polished, she was building a narrative. And I should be keeping one, too. Victoria's kindness always came with a receipt. I just never thought to check the fine print before. 13:20. A new beginning, Margaret. The Hartford penthouse changed everything. That mystery email from week 3? It belonged to a woman named Margaret Calloway. 62 years old. Self-made. Owned commercial properties across Connecticut and North Carolina. Sharp eyes. Silver rings on 3 fingers. The kind of handshake that tells you she's been underestimated her whole life and has enjoyed proving people wrong every single time. We met at the penthouse, 18th floor, overlooking Bushnell Park. The space was a disaster. Previous tenant gutted the kitchen and left. Walls stripped to drywall. Exposed pipes. Most designers would see a problem. I saw a cathedral. Margaret watched me walk the rooms for 40 minutes. I didn't pitch. I didn't sell. I just moved through the space, touching surfaces, measuring light angles with my hand, crouching to check sightlines. When I was done, she was standing in the doorway, arms crossed, the faintest smile. You see space differently than anyone I've met. The project took 5 months. Budget, $120,000. More money than I'd ever been responsible for. I didn't sleep much. I sourced materials from salvage yards and artisan workshops. Every choice was deliberate. Every corner told a story. When it was finished, Margaret walked through the completed penthouse and didn't say a word for a long time. Then she turned to me. I have 3 colleagues who need someone exactly like you. Within 2 months, I had 4 active projects.
Real ones.
Not $800 living room refreshes. Full residential redesigns, with clients who found me through Margaret's name. Over dinner one evening, Margaret mentioned something that barely registered at the time, but later, much, much later, it would matter enormously. I'm looking into boutique hospitality. If you ever want to invest your time, not money, I'd like to talk. She said, I don't invest in people who need saving. I invest in people who just need a door. 1540, the move. 8 months after the family meeting, I left Connecticut. Margaret's boutique hotel project was in Asheville, North Carolina. A city built into the Blue Ridge Mountains, full of artists and hikers, and people who chose a different kind of life. It felt like the right place to stop running and start building. I packed my car, a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. Everything I owned fit in the trunk and back seat. Fabric samples. A box of books. 3 houseplants I refused to leave behind. In Asheville, I rented a 1-bedroom apartment above a pottery studio. The floors creaked. The water pressure was a suggestion. It was perfect. I filed the paperwork for an LLC. I chose the name carefully. Alder Interiors. No Anders anywhere. A clean start needed a clean name. Margaret, and I formalized our arrangement. She invested $150,000 into Alder Interiors. Not charity. A business agreement. With terms, margins, and milestones. I handled design. She connected me with property owners looking to renovate commercial spaces. Profits split by percentage. Everything documented. I worked 14-hour days. Some nights, I fell asleep at my desk with a pencil still in my hand. I didn't check social media. I didn't call Connecticut. The world I came from shrunk a little more each week until it felt like something I watched in a movie once. 1710. Daniel's discovery. Then one Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in years. Daniel Reeves. College friend. Now a real estate attorney in Charlotte. He'd spotted Alder Interiors in a North Carolina business filing. Is this you? Thea Anders, running an interiors firm?
Congrats.
Coffee sometime. For the first time in 8 months, I smiled without thinking about it. I typed back. Name a place. Daniel Reeves looked exactly the way I remembered.
Tall.
Slightly rumpled. The kind of guy who wears a suit like he's doing it a favor. We met at a coffee shop in downtown Charlotte. He ordered black coffee. I ordered the same. Some things don't change. We caught up. He'd been practicing real estate law for 5 years. Good clients. Steady work. He asked about Alder Interiors. I told him the basics. Boutique hospitality, commercial renovations, Margaret's investment. He listened carefully. Lawyers always do. Then I told him the part one hadn't told many people. The meeting. The signing. The 12 relatives. Patricia's words. Daniel set down his cup. His expression shifted. From friendly to focused.
Wait.
Your sister, Victoria Anders? Yes. From Fairfield County? Works at a firm in Stamford. That's her. Why? He was quiet for a moment, running something through his head. Her name came up in a transaction I was reviewing last week. A commercial deal in the Southeast. She was CC'd on an email chain between a broker and a property management group. That doesn't make sense. Victoria doesn't do commercial real estate. That's what I thought. He leaned forward. Thea, in those emails, your sister was warning them about you. She said you were unreliable, that your family cut ties with you for serious financial concerns. She used your full name. The coffee tasted like ash. She told them not to work with anyone connected to Thea Anders. I couldn't speak. The coffee shop noise filled the gap. Espresso machine. Laughter. Someone's playlist bleeding through cheap speakers. Daniel watched me carefully. Don't do anything yet, he said. Let me look into it. But Thea, if this is what I think it is, your sister wasn't just favored. She was actively working against you. I nodded. My hands were flat on the table, steady. But under the surface, something was shifting. 2000 hours, mid-story call to action. I need to pause the story here for a second, because this is the moment where everything splits. If you were me, if you just found out your own sister was going behind your back, sabotaging your name, making sure you couldn't rebuild, what would you do? Would you confront her? Or would you keep building in silence? Drop your answer in the comments. For confront, B for silence. And if this story is hitting close to home right now, that subscribe button is right there. It's free. It helps more than you know. Okay, let's keep going. Because what happened next? I didn't see it coming either. 2050, the comeback. 18 months after I left Connecticut, Alder Interiors finished its 12th project. I kept a running log in a leather notebook Margaret gave me. Every project. Every number. 12 renovations. Annual revenue. $1.2 million. It still didn't feel real when I wrote it. Margaret and I made our first major acquisition, a neglected commercial building in South Asheville. 3 stories. Brick exterior. Condemned by the city 2 years prior. Everyone told us it was a money pit. We saw something else. I redesigned the interior. Margaret handled the permits and zoning. We poured 6 months and every available dollar into it. When we were done, the building housed 4 luxury retail tenants and 2 design studios. Net profit after renovation, $340,000. My name started appearing in regional design magazines. A feature in Asheville Home and Design. A mention in a Charlotte real estate newsletter. Small recognitions, but they meant everything to someone who was told she'd never amount to anything. I hired 3 employees, a project manager, an assistant designer, a bookkeeper who kept me honest. We worked out of a converted warehouse space that smelled like sawdust and fresh paint. I still drove the Honda Civic. Still lived in the 1-bedroom above the pottery studio. Still ate lunch at my desk. The money grew, but my life stayed small on purpose. Then one evening, over Thai food in Margaret's kitchen, she said something that made my chopsticks stop midair. There's a parcel of land in Westport, Connecticut. Just came on the market. It's adjacent to some residential estates in the Fairfield County area. She watched my face. I knew what she was telling me. Westport bordered my parents' neighborhood. I didn't flinch. Send me the listing. 2,300 hours. The Gala confrontation. 3 years after the day I signed those papers, I walked into the Connecticut Real Estate Association's annual charity gala at the Hartford Marriott. I almost didn't come. When Margaret mentioned it, 200 guests, black tie, every name in Connecticut real estate, my first instinct was to say no. I wasn't ready to stand in a room full of people who might know my family, who might have heard Victoria's version of my story. But Margaret doesn't let me hide. You're my business partner, Thea. You belong in that room. So here I was. Black dress.
Simple.
No jewelry. Hair straight and clean. I looked like someone who didn't need to prove anything. And for the first time, that wasn't a performance. The ballroom was gold-lit. Champagne on silver trays. String quartet in the corner. 200 people in dark suits and designer gowns. Networking under crystal chandeliers. I saw them before they saw me. My father stood near the bar, speaking with Mr. Whitfield, the same attorney who slid that document toward me 3 years ago. My mother sat at a round table with Aunt Janet, her back straight, her pearls catching the light. And Victoria. She was across the room, mid-conversation with a group of men in expensive ties, laughing, gesturing, in her element. My chest tightened. 3 years of silence, and my body still reacted to them like a warning system. Margaret placed a hand on my arm. Breathe. I breathed. Then, Patricia turned her head. Our eyes met across 60 feet of polished floor. Her champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. Victoria noticed her mother's expression, followed her gaze, and found me. For one full second, nobody moved. Then Margaret walked straight toward the Anders table, and I walked with her. Margaret extended her hand to Mr. Whitfield like they were old colleagues. They probably were. Gerald, good to see you. She turned smoothly, one arm gesturing toward me. Have you met my business partner, Thea Anders, the creative force behind Alder Interiors? She said it at full volume. Not aggressive. Not pointed. Just the natural tone of a woman introducing someone she's proud of. Half the surrounding tables heard it. Richard turned slowly. His face cycled through recognition, confusion, and something I can't quite name. He stared at me like I was a ghost who walked in through the wrong door. Patricia recovered first. She always does. Thea. Her smile appeared like a light switch. Instant.
Practiced.
Camera ready. What a surprise.
We've been so worried about you. She reached for my hand.
I let her take it. One squeeze. Then I pulled back. I appreciate that, Mom. I've been well. Victoria appeared at the table's edge. She was watching me the way a chess player watches an unexpected move. We heard you were doing some decorating work. She tilted her head, a small, patronizing smile. That's sweet. The word sweet landed exactly as she intended it. Dismissive, minimizing. But Margaret heard it. She turned to Victoria with the calm authority of a woman who has eaten people like this for breakfast for 40 years. Decorating? Alder Interiors manages a $6 million commercial portfolio. I'd hardly call that decorating. The table went silent. A man beside Mr. Whitfield lowered his scotch. Two women behind us stopped their conversation. Victoria's smile didn't disappear. It froze. A colleague of Victoria's, a real estate lawyer I didn't recognize, leaned over. Alder Interiors? She owns that. We just contracted them for our Stamford project. Victoria's face went white. I stood perfectly still. I didn't come here to prove anything. I came because I was invited. And, right now, that was enough. 27:40, the phone call. 1 week after the gala, the phone call happened. I wasn't there for it. Daniel told me afterward, sitting across from me at his office in Charlotte, a legal pad covered in notes between us. Here's what happened. The Westport property, the parcel Margaret and I were purchasing, sat adjacent to the Anders family estate. Standard procedure required a boundary survey and title verification. Daniel, as my attorney, reached out to the attorney of record for the neighboring property. That attorney was Gerald Whitfield. Daniel made the call. Professional. Routine. He identified the purchasing entity. Alder Interiors LLC. Owner and principal. Thea Anders. Silence on the line. Not a polite pause. A long, airless nothing. Thea Anders? Whitfield's voice changed register. The same Thea Anders from the inheritance file? That's correct. Another silence. Daniel said he could hear Whitfield shifting papers on his desk. I'll need to verify financials on the buyer's side for the boundary agreement. Standard compliance. Of course, Daniel said. I'll send a summary. Alder Interiors' total portfolio valuation, including real property and business assets, approximately $9.4 million. Daniel told me the silence lasted 15 seconds. 15 seconds. He knows because he counted. Then Whitfield said, very quietly, I'll need to contact my client. That was it. No commentary. No questions. Just the sound of a man recalibrating everything he thought he knew about a family he'd served for 20 years. Daniel set down his pen and looked at me across the table. He didn't say a word for about 15 seconds, Thea. That's a long time for a lawyer. I nodded.
My hands were in my lap.
My pulse was steady. But somewhere deep inside my chest, behind the calm and the professionalism and the 3 years of silence, something exhaled. 29:40, the fallout in Fairfield. Gerald Whitfield called Richard Anders that same afternoon. I learned the details later. Through Daniel, through documents, through the version that eventually filtered back to me whether I wanted it or not. But here's what happened in the study of the Ridgewood Lane house, behind a closed mahogany door, on an ordinary Tuesday. Whitfield laid it out simply. A property transaction. Adjacent parcel. Buyer. Alder Interiors LLC. Owned and operated by Thea Anders. Net valuation of combined assets. Approximately $9.4 million. Richard said nothing for a long time. Then, that's impossible. Whitfield repeated the number. Confirmed the documentation. Noted that no Anders family funds appeared anywhere in the company's capital structure. She built that alone. According to every filing I've reviewed, yes. That's impossible, Richard said it again, softer this time, like the word was the only thing he could hold on to. That's impossible. Patricia was in the room. She'd been listening on speaker from the armchair by the window. Her face hadn't moved, but her hand gripped the linen napkin on the side table so tightly her knuckles had gone white. In the living room, Victoria was on the phone with a friend. Her voice carried through the wall, tight, urgent. What do you know about Alder Interiors, the company in North Carolina? Have you heard of it? Richard set the phone down. He stared at the wall, where 3 photographs of Victoria hung in silver frames. Then he looked at the bare space beside them where a photograph of Thea had never been. I want to call her. Whitfield's reply was gentle but firm. Through attorneys, Richard.
She is counsel now.
This goes through proper channels. Richard nodded slowly. And in that nod, something broke that wouldn't go back together. His daughter had a lawyer because of him. 32:00. The emails and tortious interference. The emails surfaced that same week. And they changed everything. Daniel was completing due diligence for the Westport purchase. Title searches, lien checks, transaction history for the surrounding parcels. Routine. Boring. The kind of paperwork that makes law school graduates question their life choices. But buried in a chain of correspondence between a regional brokerage and a property management firm, Daniel found something that was not routine at all. An email from Victoria Anders. Sent 14 months earlier. Addressed to a commercial broker named Paul Erickson. Subject line. Heads up, confidential. The content. Victoria expressing concern about a woman named Thea Anders who may approach firms in the Southeast market. She described me as financially irresponsible. Claimed I was removed from the family due to serious trust issues. Advised Erickson to exercise caution with anyone associated with that name. There were 3 more emails in the chain. Different recipients. Same language. Same careful, devastating phrasing. Victoria never said anything overtly false. She implied. She suggested. She let the reader fill in the worst version of the story. It was elegant. It was calculated. And in the state of Connecticut, it's called tortious interference with business relations. Daniel sent me the chain. I read it once, sitting at my desk in Asheville, the mountain light coming through the window. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I closed the laptop and sat with it for a full hour. Then I opened it again and called Daniel. Are these enough? More than enough. How long have you known? I found them 2 days ago. I wanted to verify before telling you. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Keep them safe, I said. I'll decide when I'm ready. I'm not going to use them out of anger. I'm going to use them if she doesn't stop. 34:30, turning point call to action. Let me step out of the story for just a moment, because we've reached the turning point, and I want to hear from you. Thea has the evidence. She has the money. She has every legal right to take this to court. But here's the question. If you were her, would you sue your own sister, or would you walk away and let your success speak for itself? A for sue, B for walk away. Tell me in the comments. I've read every single one so far, and I'm not stopping now. Let's get back to it because what Thea decides, it isn't what you'd expect. 35:20. The letters. 2 days later, Daniel got the call. Mr. Whitfield, on behalf of Richard Anders. Formal tone. Careful words. My client would like to arrange a meeting with Ms. Anders. A family conversation.
Daniel asked me.
I thought about it for one full day. I sat with it the way I'd learned to sit with every hard decision in the past 3 years, without rushing, without reacting, without letting the old version of me take the wheel. Then I told Daniel, no. If my father has something to say, he can put it in writing. Richard wrote. The letter arrived through Whitfield's office, on personal stationery, not legal letterhead. His handwriting. Thea, I am incredibly proud of what you've accomplished. I had no idea. I would like to see you. We have a lot to discuss.
Can we talk?
I read it at my kitchen table. I read it again, standing at the window. I read it a third time, sitting on the floor, like I did the night everything fell apart. He's proud. Of course he is, because now there's a number attached to my name. $9.4 million of validation. But where was this letter when I was earning $800 per project? Where was this pride when I was eating cereal for dinner? When I couldn't keep a client because his other daughter was poisoning every well in a 3-state radius? I dictated my response to Daniel. He sent it through Whitfield.
Thank you, Dad.
But I don't need pride that arrives 3 years late. I built my life without it. I'll continue without it. A week later, Richard sent a second letter. 2 words, written in ink that smudged slightly, like his hand was shaking. I'm sorry. I read it. I folded it. I put it in a drawer. I didn't reply. 37:30. The cease and desist. I didn't sue Victoria.
I want to be clear about that.
Not because I forgave her.
Not yet.
But because a lawsuit turns my life into a courtroom exhibit. And I'd spent 3 years taking it back. I wasn't handing it over again. Instead, Daniel drafted a cease and desist letter. It was 5 pages long. Precise. And devastating. It named 4 specific instances of defamatory communication. It attached the email chain. It quoted the relevant Connecticut statute on tortious interference with business relations. And it ended with a single clear statement. If Victoria Anders continues to disseminate false or misleading information regarding Thea Anders or Alder Interiors LLC, legal proceedings will be initiated without further notice. Daniel sent it certified mail to Victoria's office at the law firm in Stamford. She received it on a Thursday morning. I know this because Daniel got a read confirmation at 10:14 a.m. By 10:32 a.m., Victoria called Patricia. I learned the details later, through the grapevine that Daniel had quietly maintained with contacts in the Connecticut legal community. Word travels in small professional circles, especially when a lawyer gets her to cease and desist at her own firm. She has the emails. Victoria's voice, I'm told, was flat, controlled, but fast. The way people speak when they're calculating damage. She has everything I sent. What emails? Patricia asked. All of them. Every one I sent to brokers. To property managers.
About Thea.
A long pause. We'll handle it, Patricia said. In the same tone she used 3 years ago at the dining room table. But it didn't land the same way anymore. There was a crack in it now. That evening, Victoria called my phone directly. First time in 3 years. I watched her name light up the screen. I declined the call. Not because I was afraid. Because there was nothing left to say. 39:50. Victoria's slow erosion. The emails did what emails always do. They travel. I never leaked them. I never posted them. I never mentioned them to anyone outside of Daniel and Margaret. But the cease and desist arrived at Victoria's firm during business hours. A legal secretary processed the delivery. A managing partner reviewed the cover sheet as part of standard risk protocol. Within a week, 2 senior associates at Victoria's firm knew that she used professional channels to defame her own sister. Within 2 weeks, the managing partner had a quiet conversation with Victoria behind a closed door. She wasn't fired, but she was reassigned, moved from client-facing commercial transactions to internal compliance review. A windowless office. No client lunches. No networking events. In the Connecticut legal community, the story spread the way all professional gossip does. Not with fireworks, but with raised eyebrows and carefully worded references. Asterisk difficult family situation. Judgment issues. Not someone you want representing your interests. Asterisk Victoria's reputation didn't collapse overnight. It eroded slowly. Permanently. I heard about it from Daniel, who heard about it from colleagues who heard about it from other colleagues. I didn't celebrate. There's nothing to celebrate about watching someone dismantle their own career with emails they chose to send. Then one afternoon, a number I hadn't seen in 3 years appeared on my phone. Uncle Robert. Thea. His voice was heavier than I remembered. I owe you an apology. For what? For that day. The meeting. I should have said something. I should have stood up. I closed my eyes. Thank you, Uncle Robert. That means more now than you know. He asked if he could visit sometime. I told him Asheville was beautiful in spring. When we hung up, I sat for a long time. The emails exposed themselves. I didn't have to. 42:10. The quiet house. The house on Ridgewood Lane grew quieter. I heard fragments of what was happening through Uncle Robert, who started calling me every other Sunday. He kept it light. Weather. His dog. A funny story about Grandmother Rosemary. But sometimes, without meaning to, he let details slip. Richard had stopped attending his weekly golf game. He sat in his study for hours. The bookshelves were lined with law journals he'd never open again. And somewhere on his desk, Robert saw it once, was a printout, a magazine article about Alder interiors. My photograph was in the corner. Richard had read it so many times the paper was soft at the creases. Patricia held the line. In public, she told friends the same story she'd been telling for 3 years. Thea was always the difficult one. Now that she has money, everyone wants to rewrite history. She said this at brunch, at book club, at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. But Robert told me that late at night, he'd heard her through the bathroom door, crying. Not the performative kind. The kind that sounds like it comes from a place she won't admit exists during daylight. Richard sent a third letter. Handwritten like the second. Longer this time. I'm not asking you to come back. I know I don't have that right anymore. I just want you to know I was wrong. I see it now. I see you now. I know it's too late. I read it sitting on my porch in Asheville. The mountains were turning gold. The air smelled like wood smoke and rain. I cried for the first time in 3 years. I let myself cry. Not from pain. From the ache of getting something you once needed desperately long after you've learned to live without it. I folded the letter. I put it in the drawer with the other one. I didn't reply. 44:20, Margaret's. Revelation. ***, Margaret told me over dinner on a Tuesday, like it was nothing. We were at her farmhouse outside Asheville. She'd made roast chicken and opened a bottle of wine she'd been saving for no particular occasion. The fire was low. Her cat was asleep on the armchair. I knew your father. I set down my fork. Not now, she said. 30 years ago, when I was starting my first company, Richard Anders was a young attorney in Fairfield County. Sharp. Ambitious. He was one of my earliest legal advisors. I didn't speak. He was good at his job, but he measured everything in numbers. Revenue. Returns. If it couldn't be quantified, it didn't exist for him. She paused. He told me once that I lacked vision, that boutique real estate would never scale. I ended the retainer that week. A year later, my company was outperforming every projection he'd made. She looked at me across the table with a steadiness that I've learned to trust more than anything. When you first contacted me about the Hartford penthouse, I didn't know who you were. I hired you because your portfolio was remarkable. I found out you were Richard's daughter later, when you told me about the meeting. And I decided I wasn't going to let history repeat itself. She turned her wine glass slowly. Not because I hate your father. I don't. But because I know what it feels like to be dismissed by someone who can't see past their own measuring stick. I sat with this for a long time. Margaret didn't rescue me. She recognized me. Recognized the look in my eyes that she'd once seen in her own mirror 30 years ago, standing in a young lawyer's office, being told she would never be enough. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me. Just keep building. 46:30. the Alder Collective, and final goodbye. 6 months after the gala, the Westport property closed. I didn't build a house on it. I didn't build anything for myself. Instead, I converted it into a shared creative workspace. Studios and meeting rooms for young designers, artists, and architects who are just starting out. People who need a door. The kind of space I wish had existed when I was sleeping on my kitchen floor with $3,200 to my name. I named it the Alder Collective. Margaret cut the ribbon. The same week, Victoria sent her final email. I know I messed up. I know what I did was wrong. Can we talk, please? This time I replied. It took me an hour to write 4 sentences. Victoria, I forgive you. I mean that. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you back in my life. I wish you well. I pressed send. And something loosened in my chest that I didn't know was still tight. 2 days later, my phone rings. Patricia. I almost don't answer, but something tells me this conversation needs to happen. Not for her, but for me. One last time. You proved your point, she says. Now come home. I stand at the window of my apartment. The mountains are blue and endless. The pottery studio below is playing something soft on the radio. Mom, I didn't prove a point. I built a life. And this is my home now. Thea, I love you, but I can't go back to being someone you only value when the numbers are right. She's quiet. I hear her breathing. And I wonder if she's crying again. Or if she's angry. Or if she's simply sitting in the silence of a house that's too big for 2 people who pushed away the wrong daughter. I hang up gently. Home isn't a house your parents own. It's the one you chose for yourself. 49:00, conclusion and call to action. So that's my story. I don't tell it so you'll hate my family. They're people. Flawed. Stubborn. Sometimes cruel. But people. My father was raised to believe success looked one way, and he couldn't see it when it showed up, wearing a different outfit. My mother believed love meant control, and when she lost control, she lost the language for love. My sister was terrified that if I succeeded, her entire identity would collapse because it was built on being better than me. They were wrong, all of them. But they weren't strangers. They were my family, and that's what made it hurt the way it did. Here's what I learned. And I'm sharing it not as advice, but as something I carry with me. You don't need permission from the people who gave up on you to start over. You just need one door. Sometimes you have to build that door yourself. Sometimes someone like Margaret holds it open for you. Either way, the door is yours. Setting boundaries with family isn't abandonment. It's not cruelty. It's the decision to stop bleeding for people who won't hand you a bandage. Today, Alder Interiors has 14 employees. Our portfolio is north of $10 million. Margaret is still my partner. Daniel is still my lawyer. And every morning, I wake up in a house I bought myself, in a city I chose, living a life I built from a kitchen floor and a list of what I still had. Richard still writes letters. I still read them. I haven't replied. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I won't. That's my choice now. And if you're out there right now, sitting in the aftermath of being told you're not enough by the people who are supposed to believe in you, hear me. The best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's building a life so full that their opinion no longer fits anywhere inside it. And that's where I'll leave it. If you made it this far, thank you. It means more than you know. Now, I want to hear your story. Have you ever had to walk away from family to save yourself? Or are you still deciding? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more stories like this, check the description. There's another one waiting for you right there. I'll see you in the next.